Welcome to the deep dive.
Great to be here.
Today we're jumping back into the 19th century, California.
Yeah, looking at a really fascinating figure, Sheldon Purdy Pharis.
Right, a shingle mill owner up in the Kings Mountain area. We've got some great material here, digging into his life, his business.
And of course, the mystery surrounding his death. It's quite the story.
Definitely. So let's paint the picture a bit. He starts out back east, right? Born 1828, Geddes, New York.
Near Onondaga Lake, an area known for its brine springs, interestingly enough.
And his family roots go way back. English settlers.
Yeah, since the 1600s. A long history in America, even before he headed west. You can see maybe where that resilience comes from.
Okay, so the sources, they mentioned that by 1850, Purdy and his brother are listed as, what was it, salt box manufacturers?
That's it, which tells you right there, they had woodworking skills, making wooden boxes.
So carpentry skills, that makes sense for what comes later.
Exactly. And he was also involved in boating on the waterways there before he left New York.
Seems like working with wood, maybe transport, it all kind of feeds into the shingle making later on.
It feels like a pretty natural transition, yeah. Applying those skills to a different, maybe more lucrative market out west.
So, the big move. Around 1853, he heads for California.
And what's interesting is he's apparently the only one in his immediate family who went further than Ohio. Everyone else stayed closer to home.
Wow. Really striking out on his own. The usual thinking is he went via Panama.
That's the common theory. And you have to remember, this is before the Panama Canal.
Right, so across the isthmus overland somehow. What a trek.
It really shows the drive people had. Gold rush fever or just seeking opportunity. It was not an easy journey.
But there's a bit of a gap in the story, isn't there? The sources say there aren't many solid records of him in California before 1866.
That's right. It does leave, about 13 years where his activities aren't perfectly documented. Raises some questions.
Does he definitely go straight to the gold country? Or maybe he saw the lumber potential earlier.
That's a good point. Could he have bypassed the gold fields, or maybe didn't find success there and headed for the timber regions like Kings Mountain sooner?
Especially with his woodworking background.
Precisely. It's possible the lumber industry itself was the draw from the get-go. We don't know for sure.
But by 1866, things are clearer.
Oh yeah. By then, he definitely owns at least one shingle mill. He's got men working for him. He's established.
Established seems like an understatement by 1870. We have the industry census details.
Right. 14 male employees.
Yeah.
Income that year listed as $3,700.
Which was decent money then. And production.
8 million shingles made, cumulatively. Valued at $17,000. That's a serious operation.
It really shows how fast things could move then. From arriving potentially with little to running a major business.
And the population census from the same year, 1870, really highlights his personal success.
Who did that show?
$50,000 in property value and $10,000 in personal estate.
Okay, let's translate that. 50,000 then is, what, over $1 million today?
Easily. Well over $1 million in property. And the $10,000 personal estate is like maybe $220,000 now.
And the source even suggests the land value, the redwood forests, could mean the equivalent today is potentially billions.
It's staggering, really.
Okay.
The potential appreciation is immense. It wasn't just a small-time mill.
And the census even lists the guys living with him at the mill camp. Gives you a sense of the community there. Charles Brackett, James Footman.
Yeah, Patrick Allen.
Yeah.
A whole crew living and working right there. A little economic hub he created.
So success breeds success. He starts expanding his land holdings.
Definitely. By 1878, there's a map showing Pharis owning a lot of land. Numerous tracts between Purisima and Butano.
How much are we talking?
At least 6,000 acres owned outright. And he was leasing even more for logging rights.
So a major player, a big landowner, powerful figure in the area.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Which makes what happens next even more, well, shocking and mysterious.
Right. This brings us to the core mystery, his death, March 1884.
He dies from a gunshot wound. And the reports say it was to the back of the head.
Back of the head.
But here's the really strange part. The official death records, they don't actually list a cause of death.
Nothing, just blank.
Seems so, which, immediately makes you think something's not right. Why leave that out?
That is suspicious, yet it was ruled a suicide.
By a council of his peers, yes. But like the source material points out, that ruling has always been questioned. Murder was suspected from the start, and that suspicion lingers.
And who was there when it happened?
Just two other people in the house. A guy named Hiram Haskins,
Okay.
described as a neighbor and also a stagecoach driver, And another man, Emmanuel Stevens, supposedly just a drifter passing through.
A drifter. Any more info on him, Stevens?
Almost nothing. Public records seem non-existent for him. He's a ghost in the narrative.
But Haskins, the neighbor, more on him.
A bit more, yeah. He was born in Ogdensburg, New York.
Ogdensburg. Hang on, Pharis was from Geddes, NY. How far apart are those?
About 130 miles, the source says.
Close enough to wonder, could they have known each other before California?
It's a tantalizing possibility, isn't it? More than just a random neighbor showing up years later.
The term neighbor itself seems a bit fuzzy, too. The source, Sawmills of the Redwoods, calls him that.
Right, but the first record of Haskins actually in San Mateo County isn't until 1882.
Just 2 years before Pharis died.
Exactly. Before that, he was registered to vote in Sacramento, then San Francisco. Doesn't sound like a long-time Kings Mountain neighbor.
And in 82, he's listed as a lumberman, not a stagecoach driver.
Right, residing at Summit Springs. Age 50. The details shift a bit.
Okay, this is getting complicated. There was another Haskins nearby, though, right? An Aaron Haskins.
Yes, and he definitely owned land near Pharis back in 1870. Significant amounts.
So maybe Hiram was connected to him, family.
Well, that's where it gets murky. Aaron Haskins' genealogy apparently doesn't list a Hiram.
Oh.
And Aaron was from a completely different part of New York, over 250 miles away from Ogdensburg, where Hiram was born.
So probably not related, or not closely anyway. It highlights how tough this research is.
Totally. And just to make it harder, the researchers found military records for 2 different Hiram David Haskins from Ogdensburg.
2 of them?
Both Union Army wagoners. Both died during the Civil War in 1865. One in Wisconsin, one back in Oswego, NY.
So neither of them could be our Hiram Haskins, who was in California in the 1880s.
Nope. It just shows you can't just grab the first record with the right name. You have to be careful.
Okay, back to the night Pharis died. Haskins and Stevens. What was their story again? They heard something.
They reported hearing a sound like a boot dropping.
A boot dropping, but Pharis died from a gunshot to the head.
Exactly. As the source notes, in a small house, likely wooden, not insulated, a gunshot would be loud.
Yeah, way louder than a boot. That sounds convenient.
It does seem inconsistent, doesn't it? It definitely adds to the suspicion about their account.
And was there a motive? Money?
Well, there was speculation about Pharis maybe having cash hidden in the house.
Secret stash. Even though he probably used the bank in Redwood City.
It wasn't unheard of then to keep some cash accessible, even for wealthy individuals.
Oh.
So, maybe. It's speculation, but it provides a possible motive.
Especially considering Haskins' situation. You mentioned he was a stage driver, or maybe a lumberman by 82.
Right. And looking at that 1878 land map again, there's no Hiram Haskins, no H.D. Haskins listed as a landowner, only Aaron Haskins.
So could a stage driver, even a lumberman, afford to buy big chunks of valuable redwood land? It seems unlikely.
It does raise questions about his financial capacity at that time.
But then, fast forward a bit, after Pharis dies, his assets go to relatives back east, the properties are auctioned off.
And then you look at the land ownership map from 1894, and suddenly H.D. Haskins owns 3 of Pharis's original land parcels.
3 of them, including the homestead.
Including the homestead parcel, yeah. Over 700 acres total. Prime land that used to belong to Pharis.
Whoa. Okay, so how did that happen? Where did Haskins suddenly get the money?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Or maybe the multi-million-dollar question, given the land value.
It looks really suspicious, connecting the dots like that.
The timing, the sudden wealth, the acquisition of the victim-specific property, it certainly fuels the murder theory.
What happened to Haskins later in life?
It's actually quite a sad end. He died in 1917.
Where?
At Agnew's Insane Asylum. The cause was arteriosclerotic brain disease, essentially dementia related to hardening of the arteries.
Oh, wow. And did the rumors about Pharis's death follow him?
Apparently, yes. The suspicion never fully went away, and the source brings up a really interesting, almost poignant point.
What's that?
Could his dementia in his final years have loosened his tongue? Or maybe distorted his memory? Could he have confessed something or said things that were misunderstood? We'll never know.
So many loose ends.
Exactly. We're left with this pile of unanswered questions.
Like, was there really a hidden stash of cash? Is it possible any of it is still hidden somewhere on that land?
Did Haskins and Stevens conspire to kill Pharis for that money or for the land itself?
Why did Haskins end up with that specific land? How did he afford it?
And what happened to Emmanuel Stevens, the drifter? Where did he disappear to after being cleared?
And yeah, that final question about Haskins. In his dementia, could he have revealed the truth without anyone realizing its significance?
It's frustrating from a historical perspective.
So let's wrap this up. This deep dive took us into the life of Sheldon Purdy Pharis. Quite the success story, really. New Yorker makes it big in the California Redwood shingle business.
A classic tale of entrepreneurial spirit in the West, but overshadowed by this incredibly murky death.
Yeah, a gunshot-ruled suicide, but with so many red flags. A missing cause of death on the record, the wound location, the witnesses.
Especially Hiram Haskins. His inconsistent background, the questionable boot-dropping story, and then, crucially, his later acquisition of Pharis's valuable land.
It leaves you hanging. The lack of definitive proof one way or the other.
It really demonstrates how history can be sometimes. Full of intriguing clues, strong suspicions, but missing that one piece of concrete evidence to solve it. Circumstantial evidence points fingers,
but doesn't provide absolute certainty.
Exactly. The official record says suicide, the persistent rumors say murder.
Which leads us to our final thought for you, the listener. Thinking about everything we've discussed. Pharis's success, the gunshot, Haskins, Stevens, the land, the missing money. If you could find just one piece of missing information, what do you think would be the key? What single thing would finally solve the mystery of how Sheldon Purdy Pharis really died?
Bay Area bleepers, metal detecting for you. Yeah, I'm a treasure seeker, always find something new. And I'm cleaning up garbage, 'cause it's the right thing to do. Calling all treasure seekers, Bay Area bleepers.